All right, listeners, hello and welcome back to Lead Up for Women, Speak Up to Lead Up. I'm your host, Colleen Biggs, and wow, what a week it has been. I am so excited that we have Independence Day coming up this weekend because what bigger holiday than the conversations that have been happening about our choices and our voices and our freedoms that has been top of conversation lately. And as everybody knows, with Lead Up for Women, I had this conversation this morning with one of the ladies who is a PR representative that reaches out to me regularly. She writes the articles for my philanthropy section for every issue in our magazine, and she reached out to me and her article is a lot about COVID, and she goes into police brutality. She goes into race. So it's a huge conversation that she has in her article. And she ended her article with a quote from Obama. And I wrote her back and I said, you know what I love so much about this platform of this magazine is no matter who we support as a president, no matter what our beliefs are, our religions, our political views, we can all work together seamlessly because we respect in this platform of Lead Up for Women that we all have a voice and we celebrate each other's differences and each other's opinions. And it doesn't make it right or wrong to the other person. It's simply their opinion and their views and how they feel. And I think it's important that we use these platforms to get these opinions out and not be ashamed about what our stand is on who we support and not feel as if we need to stay silent. Because if you really want to authentically be you every day and show up at your best version of yourself, then that means you need to use your voice and voice your opinion. So I want to share that with you today and encourage all of you listening to not shy away from what your voice is or your opinion is, and feel free to use that no matter what it is. So anyway, moving on from that, I wanted to get everyone caught up. We have a couple fun webinars coming up for the month of July. We talk about these every month. We have our Teaching Tuesday webinars, and our beautiful hosts are the ones who teach the Teaching Tuesday webinars. So our members are awesome, and they bring their genius forward, and they teach us so much about how we can apply tactical pieces to our everyday lives to make our lives easier, to make things seamless, to discover things that maybe we've never known. And on July 14th, Mel Carr is going to be teaching us about how to let it go and delegate. So let me tell you what, I hired Mel Carr. She's one of my virtual assistants, and it has just been amazing for me to be able to spend more time in the areas that are on the business to build the platforms while she's doing a lot of the day-to-day. And that to me is how you buy time, because we all have 24 hours in a day. So she's going to talk to us about how you do that. And the next one's going to be on the 28th of July. And Jen Duplessis is going to be teaching us about how you crack the top producer code. So she's applying it to every industry. She comes from the mortgage industry, but she's going to be applying it to every industry we're in. What are those little secret sauce nuggets of how you can push yourself beyond that next level, that uncomfortable area, and then how we grow from it and become a better person, and then our businesses grow from it? So we could always use information and tidbits on that. I know I can all the time. So it's so great to continue learning from other women and lifting other women. And that's what we do here. So without further ado, I would love to get into the conversation today of the two guests I have with me. And my first guest is Ann Andrews. And I know that I could sit here and read her bio, tell you all about her and how amazing she is. But I want to talk to you about the Ann that I met, So I met Ann in a group Zoom call, and she was like, boom, one of the first to sign up for Lead Up for Women when I was speaking about what I was doing, and the first to follow up with me. And what I love about Ann is one of the first things she said to me was, I have a powerful story and I know that I need to get it out. And I was like, yes, yes, you do. And that was my first impression of Ann, was her confidence in knowing who she was, what her message was, and why it was important. And I believe that that is where we all should strive to know who we are, be our best selves every day, and not apologize for that, right? Have a voice. So, Ann, I know that there's so much of your journey that you have been on, and I would love for you to take us on that journey and help the listeners by painting a picture about how you became so awesome as Ann Andrews.
Well, thanks, Colleen. I'll start with my work and what I learned from working with clients as a clothing designer for 20 years, and then move into a little bit about my personal journey. So when I chose to design clothing, I decided that I did not want to mass produce. So I worked with my clients one-on-one. And I began to notice very early on that every single woman I worked with, it didn't matter her age, her size, her color, what she did for a living, she was making disparaging comments about how she looked. And because this was just such familiar territory, as it mirrored my own journey, I didn't even really notice it. I just went along and went, okay, this is what women do. Sometimes it was really funny. Sometimes there were a couple women in the room and they were comparing either their large breasts or their big stomachs or whatever it was. We all know what I'm talking about here. So I relaunched my clothing line 5 years ago, and I ran into the same thing. And I also became very conscious of my own story and how it tied in to what I do with women. So my own story is that I became a cutter when I was 15. I would cut my arms with razor blades. And the reason I did that is because I felt really uncomfortable with the way I looked. So when I started tying all these things together, I went, why is this? Why is it that so many women feel badly about the way they look? These are perfectly lovely women. And when I started to unpack this, I realized that our culture slams us with images of what we're supposed to look like on a 24/7 basis. And it gets worse now instead of better. So that's oh, I wanted to add one more thing about my cutting. When I brought awareness to it, I really understood that the reason I was cutting was I wanted to escape the physical density of the body, because my spirit felt so unhappy in here because I didn't like the way I looked. So that's why I chose cutting. I mean, there's all sorts of ways to hurt yourself with drinking and drugs and too much this, too much that. But that was my vehicle for, self-abuse. And we all know somebody who has gone through this, or we've gone through it ourselves. So I am so aware how prevalent this is. And my work now is really about helping women get out of the pain of not feeling beautiful, because they are beautiful. And I help them find that and reclaim it.
Oh my gosh, I love what you said. And I did not know that story about you in your past. And I applaud you and honor you for showing up very vulnerable today to share that story and your past and what you've been through, because I know that brings up, I'm sure, some feelings for you of what you went through during that time. What have you found? And you talk a little bit in your bio about mirrors, and women, having mirrors are our inadequacies, how we feel about ourselves. What have you found has been a dive that you can take with women that helps them with their belief in their self and their worth of what they look like?
Well, I'm writing a book now, Colleen, and I actually wrote about this morning, so it's really fresh. I have, when I work with women, and first I had to work with myself in order to work with women, but what I did is I found what I would call, and each of us has this, I found my innocence. And I realized that when I was looking in the mirror and saying, I'm I'm not pretty enough, or I'm not smart enough, or I have too much weight on me right now, that I was actually hurting my innocence. So when I began to identify that part of myself, I went, oh, and that's where the work began. And there are other words for this. There's inner child and all these things, but none of them resonated with me until I found that word innocence. So I put up a picture of myself when I was a little girl right by my mirror, and I would talk to her when I looked in the mirror. And that's really when the healing began. When I work with women now, that's an exercise that I go into with my clients as we if they want to go on the deeper level with me. But if they're just starting off with me, what we work with is a series of words. We try to untangle where these feelings of not feeling beautiful come from. And then I talk to them about their work and what are your values and what is important to you. And we build a platform of words about that have to really do with how do I want to look, how do I want to feel, and what do I want to project. And this has turned out to be very, very deep work for women. They just love it because that gets them on the path to showing up as who they are and not mirroring constructs of what the culture is trying to tell us to look like. As women, we don't really have reference points other than fashion. And fashion is showing us all the time what we should look like. And it's fine if that suits you. But if it doesn't suit you, most women just check out of the game and say, I'm not beautiful, I'll never be beautiful. And then they start hiding. There's a lot of hiders that I work with, and I help them realize their beauty. And it is an absolutely transformative experience. And I know now why I was brought to the planet. It took me a while to figure out. I did the design work for a while and I still do, but really this deep work with women is why I was meant to be here.
Absolutely. What a blessing it is to women that you are here for you to do that work with women and help them discover themselves. What is maybe a moment that you've had with one of your clients where it just really has stuck with you, that there was a transformation? Of course, in complete secrecy, not giving away names or
Oh,
anything.
it's fine. It actually was 2 days ago. I worked with clients over the weekend, and one of them, she's very tall. She has like a model's figure. She's 61, and she had a closet full of absolutely beautiful designer clothing. And I had met her at one of my shows, and she bought one of my pieces, but she hired me to do a wardrobe consult with her. So here's what happened. When I looked in her wardrobe, she had a lot of patterns and just a lot going on. And what she realized, it wasn't even me pointing it out to her. Once she started working, I said, how would you like me to help you today? She said, I have all these clothes. I don't know how to put them together. I said, all right, this is something I can do really well. So I started diving in, and I would put together a neutral top and maybe a neutral over piece, and then a pant on the bottom with a lot of pattern. Whereas before, she would take a pant with a lot of detail and then layer it with a top with a lot of detail, so we couldn't see her. And this is what she vocalized. She said, once we started working together and she saw how I worked in neutrals to her wardrobe so people could see her, she said, oh, I was having my clothes so busy that I wasn't allowing people to see me. So she came to that realization, and it was beautiful. She's coming Friday to pick up her alterations, and I can't wait to talk to her. So that's one thing. But through the process, Colleen, she noticed it. She felt the difference. And that's what was so magical for me.
Yeah. I never have thought about clothes in that manner, as far as patterns versus neutrals versus the types of different cottons or linens or loose fitting clothes versus layering versus tighter fitting clothes. I've never really thought of that. However, I have worked with other women, and they will say when they're working with women, one of the things they'll ask them is, to get rid of things that no longer serve them. So we all have the clothes in our closet that no longer fit us, that are just sitting there haunting us, staring at us. Like, when are you ever going to wear me again? We all have them. And, but we just hold on to them thinking we're just going to get back to that size one day. But if you were to go in your closet and pick out the outfits that make you feel the most beautiful, that make you feel the most confident, that make you feel truly yourself, those are the clothes that you should be wearing. And those are the clothes you should be buying, and literally getting rid of everything else that doesn't serve you. And yeah, go ahead, Anne.
With you. And a lot of women don't know where that point is because they haven't been asking themselves the right questions and about what to wear, because again, they're going to the culture for reference points. So I have some, I call them worksheets or questionnaire, that I offer to people to go through this process to get them started. And it's amazing the feedback I got even with that. Most women say, I never thought about these questions before. And it gets them started on exactly what you're talking about, Colleen, because so many don't even know where to start. We don't have as women. Okay, so here's a reference point. Men go to their closets, they pick out a shirt, a pair of pants, a belt. And if they're, in the corporate world, they're putting on a jacket and off they go. That's not our life. We're going, do I wear a skirt? Is it a long skirt, a short skirt? Do I wear a dress? Is it a tighter dress? Does it need long sleeves? Boots, heels, flats? The list is endless. And fashion is fun, but fashion doesn't always love us. So I really help women cut through that to get to where they are so they can find peace about putting on their clothing and going out in the world and being who they are.
I love that. This is the time. So, women, if you're listening, this is the time for you to clean out the closet of the things that no longer serve you. And Anne, you had talked about a questionnaire. Would you, by chance, have this questionnaire available for women?
Yes,
okay.
I do. It's do you want me to give my address?
Yeah,
You can get it at AnnCatherine.com, and that's AnnCatherine.com. I picked two names in my business name that are very often spelled differently, so I always spell it out for people. Yeah, and Catherine is my middle name. So
okay. Good. Yeah. And we'll make sure that we put this information, this link will be in the podcast. The link will be on our Facebook page for those of you that are listening through the podcast. If you would love to see who is speaking, you can always go to our Facebook page at Lead Up for Women, and you can see all of our previous interviews, today's interview. And then we'll also put the AnnCatherine.com website in the comment section, as well as in our podcast notes. And then I am going to suggest that every female download this questionnaire and start working through it and reach out.
Kelly, let me interrupt for 1 second because I want to make sure to mention this. I offer a free 30-minute phone call with everyone who signs up for the questionnaire, because I am super intuitive and I do my homework on you once you fill out those questions, and I'll help you come up with your 3 words. Because the women who fill out the worksheets, they start off, and very few actually get it right. And I will work with them until they feel a resonance in their body, and those 3 words become their mantra. It's beautiful. Yeah. So yeah, I really hope our audience here contacts me. It's really wonderful work.
Yeah, this is a great way to take advantage of learning more about how you can be your authentic self with your clothing, and how you can be that confident, beautiful person and show up the way you want to show up in the world. And it takes work. It doesn't happen overnight, right? You shared with us your vulnerable past today, and you didn't even know why you were doing what you were doing. And then when you figured it out, there was all the work that had to be done to get you to the other side. And
Yeah,
then, yeah.
it doesn't, I would say the work is, for some people, obviously, it takes longer, but some just snap right into it. They get this aha moment that they've been hiding, or that I also teach women to see themselves differently, because as women, we go to the mirror and we look at our flaws immediately, and that's all we see. That's not what people see. So I teach all these things, and it's just delightful to see the smile come on her face when she realizes that she's been seeing herself the wrong way.
Yeah.
Realize
Yeah. I'm
beauty.
so excited that you're intuitive that way. I can't even count how many times I've said to a female in my life or a male in my life, I wish you saw you the way I saw you. And we feel that way about other people, but
Yeah.
when we're in our own frames, we don't feel that way,
Oh yeah,
you
we're
know?
hardest on ourselves, and the
Yeah.
worst part about that is harder we are on ourselves, the harder we are on other people. So then we're judging other people. It all goes together. So I'm trying to untangle all that, because there's a lot of women's energy that's tied up in this how we look thing, and it's not our fault. That's the first thing I usually say to audiences: is this is not our fault, but I am committed to helping women undo these patterns and feel better about themselves.
It's wonderful, Anne. Thank you so much. Are there any other additional contact pieces that you would like to share for those listening other than AnneCatherine.com?
I have a Facebook page, which is Anne Catherine Design. And what else? I'm on LinkedIn as Anne Andrews or Anne Catherine Design. You can find me there. I'm also on Instagram as, what am I on Instagram? Anne Catherine Design. So I will
Anne
post
Catherine
all of
Design.
those. Yeah.
All right, perfect. I even wrote those down, but we will make sure we get those in the comment section on Facebook on the video. And we will have those available on the podcast as well. As you're listening to this, you can just go to the details in the description and click on the link, and then you can start following Anne on all of the social media outlets, as well as take her questionnaire. And I definitely will probably even take you up on that. I think that's amazing. This is something I've never done. And but
Fun,
it does feel good to clean out your closet. So so I think that we all need to look at that at some point, and look at that from a perspective of what does it physically mean to clean out your closet, but what does it mentally mean to clean out your closet? And how is that going to help us step into and lean into who we are, like Anne talked about, to bring our gifts forward and really truly show up in the creative genius we were meant to be. So thank you, Anne, so much for your advice and story today. All right, so we are going to move on to Miss Sandra Hill. Sandra, how are you doing today? We've got you on mute. Let me see.
I am doing well. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. So Sandra's a certified professional life coach. She's a business coach. There's so much she does to empowering, the college age, the middle age, working with our children. And Sandra, you also have a radio show on Voice America. You and I were both, a radio host during that time in Voice America. But what I love is you work with a lot of youth. And talk to me a little bit about why you work with the youth, how you came to work with the youth, and what your favorite part is for working with our children, that are our tomorrow leaders.
Right.
You're breaking up just a little bit. Yeah.
And
there we go.
Really, I got started. Can you hear me okay now?
I can, but you were breaking up a little bit in the beginning. So let's try that and see if we can get you to be able to come through. You
All
might
right.
have to knock off your video if it gets too bad so that we're able to hear you a little bit better.
Okay. All right. Basically, tomorrow is our future. And I got started working with youth, although I work from youth all the way to seniors, military, and, corporations and whatnot. But I got started really children. I am a mom of two, but I also have 8 play children. House in the neighborhood where everybody came to. You abided by my rules. I made sure I knew who your parents were. I made sure that the parents knew my contact information, my husband's contact information. And if you have children or children's nieces, nephews that you are raising, every once in a while they get into that pre-adolescent age and something happens. And one day my husband said, okay, our oldest, he was like, okay, she's not the same person she was like yesterday. What's happened? Fix her. Fix her. What is going on here? And I did what I thought most parents would do. And the next child and the other 8 came along, and I was instilling and using coaching techniques, not knowing that I was using coaching tips and techniques. And it wasn't until my youngest started loaning me out to his friends, and his friends.
Oh, we're losing you a little bit
You're
there,
really good
Sandra.
with kids. He needs some help. Okay.
Okay, so let's so that we can hear you
You
and
hear me
your
now?
story. Yeah, go ahead and shut your video down so that we can hear you very clearly, because those listening are really going to want to hear this part. So let's go back to where you said your son started loaning you out to his friends because you were so great at giving advice.
Right. And it wasn't so much that I was so good at giving advice. People told me you are a great listener. Didn't have to say anything. I just listened, asking questions. Well, what makes you do this? Why don't you get along with your parents? If you were in their shoes, what would you have done differently? So I started, and those are just some coaching techniques. I started with them. Children,
Yeah.
oh, it's this person, it's that person, I'm getting bullied. My mom hates me, my stepdad, my stepmom. But I started with them. Let's work on you. What can you do first to be a better person? Maybe it's the way you're coming forward. Maybe you're being judgmental. Walk in their shoes for a minute. So it just started growing and growing. And the next thing parents started contacting me as their significant others or just be a part of their household. Next thing you know, schools were contacting me. In fact, my kids' school thought I was working for them. And I said, no, I'm just a parent. It was kind of funny, but that's when I really knew Colleen. I understood my calling before that, but that's when I put 2 and 2 together. All my life experience that I went through culminated to that point. And I said, you know what? When I finish with my full-time job, this is what I would do. I want to launch my own business as a life coach. Now I expanded to business and career coach because at the time where I was working, I helped institute a coaching program for managers and aspiring managers and executives. It was well worth it. It was a great experience. I started taking formal training, forming formal classes. And next thing you know, 37 years here, close the door. Next chapter opens 3 months later. And I just stepped into that call.
Yeah. One of the most important things for the youth is, and I'm sure you found this along the way, is they're really just craving somebody to listen to them because they are going through so many changes and they do have so much to say. And as a child, as they're being raised, depending upon which household they're in, sometimes the conversation's only coming one way. And so for them to be able to lean on you and for
Right.
you to be able to get groups of these children together to be able to help, like your best-selling book. You have a best-selling book called Create the Life You Want. Is that correct?
Correct. That is correct.
Yeah.
Do.
So,
And I just published another one about leadership and getting ready to do a third one
oh, that's amazing. And you're
about
one,
health and wellness.
I'm glad. I'm glad that you're writing books because you have so much experience in working with the youth. And it's so important and impactful, the work that you're doing, because helping children and the youth and college understand that you create your reality. You have choices. You get
Right.
to make those choices. And I believe, I'm just going to go out on a limb here because I have raised several children, that they believe they don't always have choices because they
Exactly.
are being parented and they're told what to do and what the parameters are and how they should do it. And there is that the reason why there's the push and pull, and we usually go through that like you and your husband did, where you were like, who is this lady today that just showed up in our house? That was not our daughter we had yesterday. We've all had the same experience. It's because they're finding themselves and they're
Right.
experimenting on who they are and what they like. And we need to allow our children safely to go through this exploration time to figure out who they really are as a person. And that is why when I talk about us showing up as the best version of ourselves unapologetically, we automatically give our children the same permission around us to show up as them.
That's right.
Exactly. We as adults should be creating that environment that is safe and going through the journey with them, not just letting them go willy-nilly, but going with them. And at the time when I was working with high schoolers and middle schoolers, because I've partnered with several in my area, I wrote a workbook, which is one of the things that I'm going to share. And it's called Be More, Do More, Live More. Speak into existence your new future. And it's about affirmations. It's a lot about what Anne has said and others have said. You have to go through your closet and do spring cleaning.
Yeah.
Literally, spring cleaning. And, I wanted to reach back, working with clients as young as middle schoolers, because that's where I felt I could make the most impact. And that's where I felt there was a greater need. And of course, because of their age, I have to do so with permission of their parents.
Sure.
But I decided, I'm going to venture in and partner with some middle schoolers and help them, because they might not have that home life. They might not have that environment that allows them to figure out who they really are. They might have that environment where they can grow, learn, adapt, and change.
I think that's brilliant because in the schools especially is where they tend to have some of their largest challenges, because that's where they're gathering and they're always consistently comparing themselves to the children around them. And,
Right.
You look at the school system as a whole, and we grade based on, if you're an A student or a failure or an average student, based on whatever those merits and those tests are. So, I mean, I'm not a big proponent behind the way that the school systems are run today at all. But, when I was raising my children, we just all try and do the best we can. And, you want your children to become who they are, their confident self. And we're constantly telling our children, you can be anything you want to be, but are we really guiding that journey for them to be anything that they want to be? Or are we hindering that? So that is why it's so important. If we are the ones that are responsible for raising the next generation, how are we showing up?
Exactly. And if I could share something, because it brings to bear, this is a story I share to the younger clients that I work with and to the students I mentor, because I grew up mostly overseas, being a dependent of a career military dad. And so I learned to observe a lot of different cultures, and I spoke languages. So it was telling that even though I was born in the United States, my mom had a difficult delivery, and the doctor immediately said, this child's going to be retarded. This child's not going to be able to walk, talk, yada, 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 you know? And my mom didn't give up on me, you know, with the grace of God, she pulled through. She talked to me every day, introverted, and being in a different environment, I was observing people, even though at a young age I didn't realize I was observing people, watching and learning how they said and what they said. And I'll never forget the first time I came stateside, because I was going to deliver a brother, and she wanted to, you know, have the child in the United States. We were only there for the time.
I didn't catch you right there, Sandra. Okay, go ahead.
I didn't really say, I didn't say anything. I was just like, but I started school at the age of 3, and coming stateside, I remember having to take one of those standardized tests to even go to skip. And because I did not talk, and at the time I didn't talk because I had an accent. I knew I had children can be cruel. They made fun of you. And sometimes I would get the different languages twisted and say a sentence in multiple languages. So I just chose not to speak. So, you know, on the, even though I passed the test, she said, she is retarded and needs to be in special ed. So as adults, we have to watch those labels and get behind the main factor, you know. And I'll never forget, we were there for 6 months or so, moved, and when my mom report card of all A's, she copied it, sent it to that teacher, kind of like, I'll show you. But it just stuck different for me, like it is for so many youth who get a label early on and then have to work out from under it.
Yeah. Yeah, we talk a lot about labels. On this show, and because that was what you were labeled from your first breath of coming out, that was what your mom was bound and determined for you not to be. So all of her efforts and were put into that, and then all of your efforts were to be the opposite of what they said you were going to be.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And children can be so cruel with judgment. And if everyone realized that we're not on this earth to judge, you know, there is one judge, and that's God. You know, we're here to learn and lift each other. And if we could all bound together and do that. And I love that you're speaking to middle school. I'm just going to say it again, because that is where I feel they are able to learn and grow the most, because they're really trying to figure out who they are and where their path in life is going to lead. And that's just a very inspirational age for you to step in with, helping them understand that they can be more, do more, speak more, and create the life that they desire.
Yes. Part of my business mantra is, you're not impossible. If you put that word impossible on the board and put the pi and the M and look at it every day, you get I'm possible. I can do all things. I can do all things. That's the biblical reinforcement. So
that's beautiful. Well, since you're breaking up quite a bit still, so I want you to be able to share some information of how a parent listening or a child listening can get their hands on the workbook or get in contact with you, especially when schools are coming back into session next year. I believe even more now, it is crucial for you to be speaking to our youth. So how is someone able to get in contact with you, Sandra?
So my website is www.thunderstorms, new, N-E-W, Horizon. It's not spelled the conventional way. It's H-O-R-I-Z-E-N coaching.com. So it's newhorizoncoaching.com. And they can go to the contact page because webinars, I do training at the schools. I do counseling in the form of partnership because I am a coach. I help them with basic life skills. And because the book, it's an ebook, usually I use it for different sessions if they would like that, if they'll just send that. There's a list on one of the pages, but you can't click it and actually get it downloaded. So if they just go to the contact and say, requesting the ebook, that would be great.
Okay. And then Sandra is going to provide me with all of the contact information. So if you're listening on the podcast, you will have it available to you in the description, as well as if you're on Facebook right now, we'll make sure that we load that into the comments section afterwards. And Sandra, thank you so much for joining us today and for doing what it is that you do. It's truly inspirational, motivational, but most of all, educational for the model in which you teach the children, which are our tomorrow leaders, on what it, how I even look at, the world and the culture, and going back to what Anne spoke to about how, we tend to judge ourselves based on what culture and society shows us what we should be or should act like, or what size we should be or look like, or clothes we should wear. And,
Right.
children are affected by that as well. And how inspiring is it to look to a future where children are not bound by those rules, but they really realize they can create any future that they want and become more confident about themselves and who they are, and look at their imperfections as their uniqueness that makes them so awesome as themselves. So I just want to thank you again, Sandra, for all the work you do with the youth, as well as with corporations and individuals. Coaching is so important. And just as Anne is helping everybody unpack and, mentally spring cleaning, designing the clothes that we feel the best in, and understanding why we're doing what we're doing, or hide behind whatever it is that we're hiding behind. Children may be hiding behind their parents or hiding behind their friends. And the suicide rate is just outrageous for children. And that's really where our focus needs to be. So I want to encourage any of the moms listening, any of the parents listening, any of the children listening today to take advantage of what Anne and Sandra has offered today, for you to be able to get your hands on these ebooks and these downloadable questionnaires, for you to be able to turn within and work on yourself, and show up authentically as you, and help your children do the same. So thank you, ladies, so much for joining me today. It was such a pleasure. And Sandra, I'm sorry that you kind of went in and out a little bit there. If you want to flip your video back on, you certainly can. We did the best with what we have with thunderstorms. What can we do? It's technology, right? Yeah. So I just want to remind everybody that next week, our guests on July 8th are going to be Debbie Corey. She's a financial strategist. Love her to death. She came out and did a webinar right away, right when we went into the pandemic and the quarantine, about the PPP loans and everybody understanding what to do and how to apply for those. And so she's been a wonderful member in guiding us through the financial strategies, as well as Jordan Alice is going to be joining us. And she's an expert storyteller. I love Jordan. She's just a sweet lady. She's going to be coming on and talking about communications, and how we communicate with other people, and how important that is, that we're communicating effectively. So we can always learn something new. So I'm excited to have both of them on our show next week. And I just want to close by reminding all of you today to remember that you are the only you that has ever been, and you are the only you that will ever be. So how you pioneer your future is up to you. So know how special you are, know how important you are, and be the best version of yourselves possible, so others around you can show up as the same. So I want to thank you both for joining me, Anne and Sandra, this week. It was a wonderful show. Thank you for sharing your nuggets of wisdom. And I look forward to all of what we have going on this week. And happy 4th of July to everybody listening.
Thank
Take care, ladies. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.